West Denver. Sleep deprived and heavily caffeinated.
All right, let's do this then.
This is the Jeff and Bill Show.
I don't agree with that.
They don't always agree, but hey, at least they have coffee.
Coffee.
And each other.
I love you, man.
God help us.
I want to bless him. We need all the help we can get.
Now here's Jeff Hunt and Bill Thorpe. The Jeff and Bill Show on News Talk 710 KNUS.
It's 7 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Thursday, June 19th, 2025. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned in to the Jeff and Bill Show. News Talk 710 KNUS. We got a lot to talk about this hour. The U.S. Supreme Court yesterday dropped a major ruling, sending shockwaves across the country in a 6-3 decision. The court upheld Tennessee's law banning puberty blockers and hormone treatments for minors. The left calling it cruel, the right calling it common sense. Justices said this law doesn't discriminate. It simply protects children from an irreversible procedure pushed by activist medical industry. And they didn't fall for the emotional blackmail. Instead of applying radical new standards, the court used what's called a rational basis review, basically asking, does this law make sense? Yes, it does. And Tennessee has a right to protect kids. We're going to break down what this means for parents, kids, states' rights, and the future of gender politics in America. But I first want to go to Dwayne in Divide about this tornado, this twister that broke out down there. Good morning, Dwayne. How you doing?
Yeah, how you doing up there?
NTM. Anyway, so, yeah. Well, how do you put it properly? I mean, 106-mile-an-hour winds, and Blake will back this up. Somebody thought I was talking for more than 5 minutes. They thought I was the big sound and all the big noise up there. So, But, yeah, there's about a dozen roads. If you're coming up and you're going out towards Cripple Creek, there's a little Divide Market, and then you make a right turn, and you come out towards my compound, or you go out to Cripple Creek. Well, on that road, 512, you can sit there and see a few trees knocked over and a little bit of branches. A couple of the power lines are bent over really nicely, so I assume sometime today we'll probably lose power. And, it's looking really nice about everything. So it's like, gee, this is the second one. The first one about 25 years ago was only 8 miles from my place, and that one was kind of nerve-wracking because it was really a ripper.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. You guys got a lot of trees up there. That's where we go as a family to hunt for our Christmas trees, and I imagine you guys get a lot of folks out there doing that. But everyone okay at your place? No one injured, no big damage.
Oh no, it was about, like I said, about 6 miles from the house, so we're good there. The only thing I've got now is I went to start the race car, put it in the trailer this morning, and as I put it in gear, it sounded like 3 cinder blocks bouncing around in the dryer.
Oh, that's not good.
So. Oh, yeah, that's not good. So I'm on your way out towards Aurora to pick up a transmission. After you spending a month polishing every rod, everything, to sit there and make sure that it clicks in. So I'm going to be driving stock transmission behind an engine that probably will destroy it if I'm not too careful.
Oh, that's awful. Be careful. Be careful.
Well, I'm glad you guys are safe up there, and thanks for giving us a little update on what happened in Divide yesterday,
yeah,
Dwayne.
And if you do end up in Kansas sometime soon, you can call us then too. Just saying.
Not a problem. The only problem is wearing these, red sparkly shoes.
Yeah.
Heels before 8 a.m. They hurt.
Oh, they do. Hurt. Yeah, they're hard on the feet, and so many other witches want to come around and take your shoes from you. It's awful. Yes.
Oh, you wouldn't believe how many witches are around my place. I got 2 women living with me right now, getting ready for my knee surgery. That whole thing about a whole state of women living together. Oh, please, Hiroshima will look like nothing more than a pimple.
Oh, Dwayne, you're the best. Thanks for the call. Have a great day, sir.
Dwayne and Divide, his line will be open 303-696-1971. You want to go to Brian in Arvada? Or you want to go to news?
We'll play it by ear. What do you want to do?
Let's do Brian, Arvada. Right, cool. Good morning, Brian. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Yeah, morning.
Hey, guys. I do think quickly the Supreme Court ruled correctly. And read Amy Coney Barrett's opinion on that. And I thought it was brilliant how she said a protected class, can't exist. It has to exist. The condition of a protected class has to exist at birth. I'm summing that up, but I thought that was brilliant because we can't make, your choice of gender a protected class if it didn't exist at birth. So I thought that was brilliant. My other thing is, I was telling Billy, the civil discourse has been crazy at work. The other day, we had a young man was just he was there. I walked in on a heated conversation about the war in Iran and America getting involved, and he literally believed that Israel was evil, Iran was okay, and I don't know how you get there at age of 24. How you get and we're all deceived and everything. And I had to end the conversation. We were at work. I said, this isn't appropriate, but I don't know how you get there that quick.
Marxism.
And it took me 20 years to get to where, after my 20s, I didn't believe really anything. But in my 30s, I started really doing some research. And, now I'm like, I can have civil discussions. It was nothing civil about this conversation. There was no civility. And so is that how we get there? Is Marxism? Is that how these young people are getting to these views?
So in their government-run education, and especially in higher education and college, they're pushed this worldview, and it's in the first page of the Communist Manifesto that all of history is oppressor versus oppressed. So they buy into this. This becomes the meta-narrative by which they look at everything. Okay? Then you start to fit any situation into that meta-narrative of all of history is oppressor versus oppressed. And you look at a country like Israel that has built out of the desert this thriving, beautiful, wonderful country with a great economy and religious freedom and a democracy and all this stuff happening. Well, the only way they could have done it in this worldview is by being an oppressor. And so the Jews are oppressors. Israel is an oppressor. They oppress Gaza. They oppress the people around them. That's the only way they can be successful. And you see it kind of creeping in America too, where it's like, well, the Jews control Hollywood, or the Jews control politics, or the Jews. No, they're a successful people group because of the values that exist within that. They're not successful because they're oppressors. But young people, they think that's what's happening right now. They think Israel's oppressing other people, and it's all because they bought into this narrative. And then everything's in that narrative. I mean, climate change is oil companies oppressing the environment. Donald Trump is oppressing immigrants. Everything falls into that worldview, and then Israel's just another example of it for them.
Oddly enough, I disagree with that. Well, see, I disagree with that. I disagree with that explanation. I disagree with Jeff's bromide about the idea that this is just a Marxist education. I don't think that's true. I think this is a lack of historical context and education. The kid's young. Understand that in your 20s, you have more knowledge than you've ever had in your life. And you figure that now you know all of it, but you lack the perspective of history because you have very little history. So basically, time stops for many 20-year-olds within 5 years before they were born. And so they don't look at anything as far as the arc of civilization prior to that. And the reason I push back on the idea that it's the Marxist cultural idea is because we could go back to the reason that the Israel nation was created post-World War II was exactly because of oppressor and oppressed. Exactly, but that gave rise to the nation, if we want to look at it through that viewpoint. So that's why at the core, I disagree with this being a Marxist education thing. Plus, I think that makes it way too easy because it allows way too many broad generalizations. For me, it's a lack of understanding of the history and what has gone on. And I saw this yesterday online in a conversation where it was yeah, but what about? And it was a conversation that was on social media between two people that were discussing Israel, the Iran war, and the treatment of Palestinians. And they kept going further back in time. Someone was like, well, what about October 7th? Well, what about this that happened the year before? What about this 2 years before? What about this? Eventually, they were back in the 40s. And it was always going back to this action that the that a person that I'm opposed to has taken first. And they were looking, it was a basic chicken and an egg argument. And that's part of the problem that we have in this idea is everybody's looking for the chicken and the egg, and they're looking to which came first. And that in this situation, I don't think that can be applicable. Too much water's under the bridge. Too many things have happened on too many sides that we need to find a functional solution. And that's what I think it is. I think that the Gen Xer, or Gen Z, or they're talking to,
Gen Z,
sees the world in too much of a black and a white, and feels that they have this idea of knowledge and they possess more than they ever had, and everybody else around them doesn't see the world as clearly as they do because they obviously haven't accumulated all the knowledge that they do, with the misunderstanding that they lack the perception of history because they haven't been there, they haven't experienced it, and they haven't read it. Peter Boyles is fantastic on this for going even further back as far as history and giving the historical perspective. But I think that's it. Because if we wanted to play
that's
who
why
did
I love
this first,
this show,
that
Billy.
can happen, man. Hey, I appreciate it, Brian.
That's why I love this show, is because you both. I see both. I think it's a combination of what both of you just said.
That could be fair. Yeah.
As the lack of history, and they can only go back so far, and Marxism. I think it's a combination of both, and it's scary because that generation is going to lead this country someday.
Yeah, and I can agree that there could be some Marxist parts of the education that can be part of it as influential. Yeah, I will not discount that 110%. While I disagree on that being the causation where Jeff is, I can agree that absolutely that can be an influence, and we can disagree on how much of an influence that is. But yeah, I do believe that is part of the influence, because I do believe that there is a perception in some educational circles that does boil it down to oppressor and oppressed, and it makes it too easy. Yeah. I can agree
It
to that.
doesn't allow civil discourse either, which is sad, because they don't want to debate. Someone was challenging him on just a little bit of arguments, and he was.
Yeah. Hey, Brian.
It was sad.
Yeah, very emotional.
Here's the thing. Next time you get into that situation, and they talk about it, and he said, Israel's being the one attacked and everything else. And again, this is a difficult thing, and you got to take this. You got to take this understanding that you're having this conversation inside of a workspace, and this might not be the best place to do it. Okay, so I'm giving you that caution. And the idea is, the example that I would ask them is, and this is very difficult to do. It's very emotional, and so you got to be brave at a point, and you have to understand where you are. But take the actions of some of the Nazis in Germany and ask if it's okay if Israel did the same thing. And ask if it's okay if the Palestinians did the same thing. And then talk about what that impact is. When the person comes in and says, Israel's evil, and they're horrible, great. Maybe what we should do is we should start building these large ovens, and maybe we can help the Palestinians, and maybe we can help the Iranians place them to eradicate this horrible. Is that what you're asking for? Because there was a guy that had this really funny mustache that had that idea about eliminating this evil cause onside the planet. Now, you got to be careful you don't call them a Nazi, but draw the implication that the last large group and large country that felt the Jews were so evil that they were the wrongdoers, they had a really scary solution to that problem. Just ask that
Billy,
question,
and
man.
I would, but we had to make a rule because of this discourse went bad. The ownership had to get involved. I had to tell the owner that involved, and we had to make a rule that no politics discussed at work. And I've never had that have to happen, but it was awful. Because this person was shaking and then rose to the level of yelling. Wow. And I had to end the conversation and bring it up to the person that's my boss, since I'm in charge of some people, and he just said, that's it, no politics at work. And I had to bring everybody in and tell them that. And I've never thought we would get to that point.
God, that sucks. Never did either, man.
It sucks. But you know what? We're in a dangerous time. I wish it wasn't so polarizing. I wish we could have conversations with this younger generation like you and I have.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's
they all tend to gather downtown on a regular basis. So I found you can find them there to have a conversation with. Brian Arvada, great call. Sure appreciate it. Now it's time for News and Comment with Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, News and Comment.
Good morning. It is Thursday, 62 and sunny on Juneteenth, and a beautiful, beautiful day in store. expecting a high of 95 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story.
Look, they should have made the deal. I had a great deal for them. They should have made that deal. 60 days, we talked about it, and in the end, they decided not to do it, and now they wish they did it. And they want to meet, but it's a little late to meet, but they want to meet, and they want to come to the White House. They'll even come to the White House. So we'll see. I may do that, but it's a shame it could have been done the easy way.
Wow, the Iranian regime may come to the White House. That would be a photo op. Members of Congress calling for an evacuation plan for Americans in Israel. Israel and Iran have been, of course, firing missiles at each other for nearly a week. New Jersey Congressman Josh Gottheimer and other lawmakers are urging 47 to share what concrete steps they are taking to get Americans out of Israel. Bibi Netanyahu says Iran will pay a heavy price after a missile hit a hospital in southern Israel last night. And what does Whoopi and The View think about Iran these days?
But let's just remember, too, the Iranians literally throw gay people off of buildings. They don't adhere to basic human rights.
Listen, here's the thing. Let's not do that, because if we start with that, we have been known in this country to tie gay folks to the car.
Where the Iranian regime is today,
I'm sorry, they used to just
United
keep hanging black people. So
it is not even the same. I couldn't step foot during this.
Wait. That's not what you mean to say. It is the same.
No, it's not. The year 2025 in the United States is nothing like if I step foot wearing this outfit in Toronto and killed for
I'm sorry.
God bless her. I forgot her name.
Alyssa something.
Is that Alyssa?
I think that's
good for
her name.
Pushing back on Whoopi. When was the last time? I mean, I'm not saying it didn't happen, but when was the last time a gay person was dragged by a car?
Well, and when was it government sanctioned? That's the other thing, too.
Absolutely.
Like, you can have these one-off actors that are terrible, right? Nobody should be drugged behind a car at any point ever. And killed, but in Iran, you have the government sanctioning this stuff. Right. So, yeah, I think it's a little different.
That means it's Tuesday in Iran.
Right.
Barack Obama says the U.S. is moving dangerously close to autocracy, toward autocracy. The former president said the current political climate is not consistent with American democracy, but with autocracies, where one person holds absolute power. Obama
and a pen and a phone. You remember that?
Oh, do I remember it? Absolutely. He said we're dangerously close to normalizing behavior like that, says the guy who just finished his third term with Ron Klain. The National Weather Service in Pueblo confirms an EF1 tornado swept through Teller County Tuesday. The agency says the tornado reached wind speeds as high as 106 miles per hour. You just heard Dwayne call in, one of our great callers, and he said it touched down to a few miles away from him. I think 4 miles, he said. 2 miles north and northeast of Divide. It's the 7th tornado, which kind of surprises me, to touch down in the county. A giant Starship rocket has exploded during a routine test at the SpaceX launch facility in Texas. Local authorities said the rocket suffered a catastrophic failure and exploded on Wednesday with no injuries reported. Video of the blast shows nearly 400-foot rocket erupting into a huge fireball. Trump administration is shutting down the LGBTQ youth suicide hotline. The administration announced this week that the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline will stop providing services for just LGBTQ youth and instead, imagine this, what a great idea, focus on all help seekers, not just the LGBTQI whatever. The Department of Agriculture is opening a new facility in Texas to fight a parasite that could be deadly to cattle. Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins outlined plans this week to build an $8.5 million installation to combat the New World screwworm, an insect that could disrupt the Texas cattle industry. The Thunder have a chance to win their first NBA crown tonight in Game 6 in Indianapolis against the Indiana Pacers tonight in the NBA Finals. The Thunder have won 2 straight and will try to win it tonight on the road. You know those Oklahoma City fans want them to bring it back to Oklahoma City for Game 7. You just know they do. Although that's taking a risk because the Pacers have been known to ruin people's evenings, the favorites in the NBA. So the Pacers and the Thunder tonight in the NBA championship. 58 in Boulder, 68 in Lone Tree, 62.
Blake, have you seen all those videos, the Caitlin Clark videos, and then the teammate that came to her aid?
Yeah, that was great. And I've kind of changed my mind on it a little bit. Caitlin's talking a little bit. She's smacking her gums a little bit too much on the court. However, yeah, that was great.
What's her name? Sophia.
Yeah, don't get me lying over here because I don't follow it, but I just know
I think it's
that
Sophie Cunningham, maybe.
You are correct. Correct. Yeah, she came back and gave her a hard foul. I mean, this is what's happening in the WNBA is the officials are letting it get out of control, Jeff.
That's what it looks like.
Yeah, exactly. And you, man, the officials have got to be able to step in, push back on these players, and say that this crap has got to stop. Caitlin Clark is getting cheap shotted every game. She's talking a lot of smack. And at the same time, the players don't appreciate her from the other teams. The officials don't know how to control the game. And and then when Angel Reese goes out there and tries to score, which she can't, she doesn't have an offensive game, but she's on the cover of magazines and on websites and all over social media because she's pretty, and on cereal boxes. The WNBA has a problem, so they need a little direction here.
If you're not sure what we're talking about, there was a game recently where Caitlin Clark gets poked in the eye, and then she pushes back, she gets shoved, and then shoved to the ground. It's like 3 hits all very quickly.
Right.
And then a few minutes later, down the there's a fast break against the team that had done that to Caitlin Clark, and this girl named Sophie Cunningham takes the player and just shoves her to the ground in the middle of a fast break.
Yeah, she gives her a hard foul.
And then she gets kicked out of the game, doesn't she? Doesn't Sophie Cunningham gets? I thought she got ejected. But it was like the end of the game. There wasn't that much time left.
Right. It goes into the crowd, and you know that's what you don't want to happen. But that's why you have to have officials that can draw the line.
So Sophie Cunningham's jerseys have completely sold out.
Have they?
Yes.
Oh, wow, that's pretty funny.
And then she posts, and then her sister posts on X yesterday a picture of the two girls, Sophie Cunningham and her sister Lindsay, and like doing taekwondo or karate when they were little girls. That's awesome. Just gives you perspective that Sophie's pretty tough.
I just can't do it, but I'm going to have to sit down and actually watch a game, an entire game, especially with Caitlin Clark playing, and try to be objective and see what I'm looking at here.
But she is really good.
Oh yeah, she's
really,
an incredible shooter.
Really good. Okay, if you like watching some of the developmental stages inside of basketball. And what I mean by that is, some of the higher level, some of the college basketball, etc., without the stuff played above the rim, that's where the WNBA is. The tactics, the positioning, the play is really, really solid. And I've seen the stuff going on with Caitlin Clark, and I'm not the best one to give advice on this because I ran with a really, really rough soccer club. We were kind of, we had a reputation.
Thugs.
Yeah.
Thugs.
Yeah, we were. Oh, yeah. There's a joke that one of my buddies that I played with, a joke that his brother throws out there that says we probably were profiled by the Denver Police Department because of the problems that we caused. And the thing that I see in that is I get very, very, very upset that I don't see Caitlin's teammates immediately coming to her defense.
Yeah, see, I have a problem with that too. I'm wondering what that's all about.
Oh yeah, for me, and I agree. I think part of it is the NBA and how they're kind of what they look at, and because of it's not the NFL and it's not the NHL, but I do believe that there needs to be an enforcement role inside of that type of style. If you're coming over and you're doing the hard fouls, then there does need to be a trade-off. And I am not opposed to the hard shove on that person on the fast break. If we're going to play hard, okay, we're going to play hard. And if you're going to come over and you're going to go and attack one of my co-players, all right, so we're fighting. Okay. Exactly. All right, let's go. Okay, that's what we've decided. And I've shared this story before that I would when I was playing, I would have players at soccer, so I'd have players that would flop. I'm a defender. Come over and I touch them a little bit, or a little bit of a hard challenge, and they would cry and moan and moan. The very next time that player came down the field, I clocked them hard, and the ref
actually would have enjoyed that.
The ref would want to run over to me. What are you doing? What are you doing? I'm like, sir. I go, that last one you whistled me for? He faked it. He does this again. You can give me a card. We can have a conversation. But now we've set the base level. If he's rolling around and I do that, that's the foul. He does that stuff before. He's fooling you.
And look, you got three dudes talking about the WNBA today.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's the thing is someone in there needs to go. Yeah, seems to go. You don't do that, and there are players that you protect. Some of those smaller players. I played. I had a couple of guest players for a while and played on a team where we had some smaller players. You were not allowed to touch them. We were going to, and we would have words if you were going to try to be that physical. And so that's part of the role inside of that team is you got to have your teammates back. Yes, absolutely, and I've been very disappointed to see that. It's really disappointed me because if her teammates stood up a little bit quicker, I think some of this would slow down.
Yeah,
I think they would get.
They have to stand up for her.
Yeah, they should.
I agree.
They should.
Jeff brings up a great point, though. It's baseball and golf season, and we're talking WNBA. I think they're full. They could be fooling all of us. It's a work.
It's a work. It's a work.
It's a work.
It's a work.
By the way, do you see that about Megyn Kelly leaving? She talked about leaving Trump Tower after they reconciled.
Yeah.
No.
So you remember the debate, right? Where Trump basically
bleeding out of everything.
Yeah, bleeding out of everything, and Megyn Kelly and the whole kind of MAGA world turns on Megyn Kelly and all that stuff.
Okay, that's right.
So they have. He calls her up. I think this is a few years later. They meet at Trump Tower, they talk it through, all this stuff reconcile. And as she's leaving, Trump just goes, hey, at least they were talking about us.
That's right. That's right. There you go.
It's the work.
It's
all right, work. We got to get to Jack. We've got a lot going on.
I got other stuff
Blake, will wrap us up here, sir.
Okay, that's your WNBA talk for today. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
The heat is on. Denver in the Front Range will have some of the hottest temperatures of the year so far, starting today and lasting through the weekend. Low to mid-90s and sunny, mid-60s tonight, hot, 90s to near 100 for Friday, mid to upper 90s Saturday, low to mid-90s Sunday, cooling off, just 70s and low 80s by Monday. Dry until Sunday night and Monday when thunderstorms return. Weather sponsored by Colorado's Best Roofing, reminding you to protect your home from the harsh Colorado weather and schedule your free, no-obligation roof inspection today at roofingcolorado.com. That's roofingcolorado.com. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Andrew texting in Are three dudes really talking about the NBA, or are we just hearing about Billy's soccer roughnecks again?
No, we're talking about
the only
NBA.
hardcore soccer group in America. Yeah. Billy's soccer group.
Yeah, I will bring that up from time to time because when Caitlin's being abused, and we had that, and there are times where that's just not cool. But yeah, we were talking about WNBA, and what do you do about this? And I do think the refs are letting it get out of hand. But I have soccer refs are not very good. There are some that are elite, that are really good. Vast majority of them. But oh my God, basketball referees in America are horrible. They are atrocious. I'm every time that I get so mad about what's happening in soccer refereeing, I go and watch a basketball game and go,
there you go.
We're not so bad. We're not so bad.
Well, let's bring Jack in. Jack, Wyoming. Happy Juneteenth to you, Jack.
Yeah, happy Juneteenth.
That's exactly the purpose of my call. I resent this cute little name Juneteenth, which is some kind of a social whatever it is, blackmail or whatever. Actually, I like to use my banks, my post office, and my stock market 5 days a week. I really don't like being blocked off because somebody thought of some cute name Juneteenth. What good is it, and how do we get rid of it?
I'm not that worked up about it. I mean, Juneteenth is the celebration of the end of slavery. What's wrong with that?
Yeah, but what do we need that for? I mean, that's ancient history.
But
I mean, I'm a forward-looking person.
That's the whole reason the Republican Party exists.
Oh, it wouldn't be. The Republicans wouldn't have prospered if they didn't have the advantage of slavery.
That's why we were founded.
We got to pay it back now.
We were founded to combat slavery. Otherwise,
well, it's over and done. So why is my bank and my post office and my stock market not available to me today?
Jack,
why not just celebrate it? Why
would you celebrate it?
Because this is what we were formed to do. I don't understand why Republicans don't spike the football, have a big parade, go down and celebrate with black people, and go look at what Republicans were able to help achieve. The end of slavery, and just rub it in Democrats' faces all the time. They're the party of slavery.
Of course the Democrats are the party of slavery. But the point is, it's an inconvenience that's ongoing. And I don't see... everything that's done is basically done to benefit the masses. How does Juneteenth, closing the banks, the post office, and the stock market today, how does that benefit the masses, especially the ones like me that are trying to do business and trying to work forward? I don't care
Jack,
what's in
history.
I know history as well as Pete Boyles does.
Got a question for you.
Okay.
Do you have a weekend in your work week?
Do I have a what?
A weekend. Do you take 2 days off, a day off in your work week?
No, I don't. I work 7 days a week, and that's why I'm worth a fortune. Okay.
So that's your choice. Now, do you celebrate, and again, other people have weekends, etc., and sometimes that break, etc., could be needed for individuals. Do you celebrate Memorial Day?
No, I don't. Look,
no, do you take the day off? No, do you take the day off? Do you do any of that? Do you take the day off for 4th of July?
I don't take any days off. I work every day of the week. My two sons didn't call me up for Father's Day. We don't celebrate anything because, I don't celebrate my birthday. I want to meet the guy who doesn't have a birthday. Who the hell doesn't? Everybody has a birthday, so what's there to celebrate?
Evidently you don't, Jack, because you don't celebrate them. So you don't have the birthday. No. I just met you. Okay, that's fair. And again, here's the idea, though, because you've made that choice to not celebrate those holidays, why do the rest of us have to play along with you? Why can't the rest of us have a day off? Oh, but you're mad about Juneteenth, so you're saying that we need to play along with you. That everybody else, no, Jack, everybody else is saying we're going to take a day off. You're like, no, I'm a hard worker. I'm going to work harder than you. Good. Go ahead and do it. Why are you spending any effort, any of your air, any of your massive brain power this morning getting mad about other people having a day off? I mean, that's like complaining about the kids having an ice cream cone at the beach. They shouldn't have happiness. Don't have happiness.
They can take any day they want off, but their choice of Juneteenth shuts me out of my banks, my post office, and my stock market. And I don't appreciate that. That's my point.
It's 24 hours, and nobody else has access either. You're not being deprived of anything. Nobody else is getting ahead of you. There's not any magical stock market trades that are happening without you. You have the ability to do everything else everybody does. You're not being held back from anything. Other people take a day off. So? You don't.
It denies me access to this stuff I do normally.
It's 24 hours.
Point.
I believe you're going to survive.
Thanks, Jack.
You're going to survive.
Yeah, it seems rather curmudgeon-y to me.
Seems rather petty.
I like, just take the day off. Who cares? And I know I disagree with some other conservatives on this, but a good reminder that Republicans were founded as an anti-slavery party. Abraham Lincoln, America's greatest president in my mind, him and George Washington, but Abraham Lincoln led the country to rid of this evil of slavery. That was Republicans. Republicans embrace it. Republicans celebrate it and continue to point out that the party of slavery were the Democrats. And then you get to have a day off too. Yeah. So I don't see the problem with it. All right, we got to get to a break. Barney, you're up next. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. The show is turned on an issue like it often does on something that wasn't even planned.
Yes, I love this.
I didn't even know it was Juneteenth.
Yeah, we didn't earlier on. It's kind of funny.
And I'm going, it doesn't bother me that people would take the time off. Heck, Cinco de Mayo.
I'm all there.
Reasons for tacos and margaritas. I'm for that.
Fantastic.
I used to manage coalitions for the Colorado Republican Party, and we would go down and set up a booth at Juneteenth and took my kids down.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was a lot of fun. It was jazz music, it was barbecue, and people having a good time, and I didn't mind it at all. Plus, I'm just reminding people, there was a party founded to end slavery. It was the Republicans. It was why we were founded. It was the core issue we were around. Abraham Lincoln, 500,000 Americans died in this battle, and an opportunity to remind the American people that the party of the Democrats were the party of slavery. Yeah, I'm going to take it.
Oh, yeah.
So Juneteenth doesn't bother me that much. But
I have multiple jobs. You would give me a day off. I will take any day off you want. I don't care. I literally do not care. You want to have napkin folding appreciation day? Fine. Give me the day off. Don't care.
Let's go to the phone lines. Barney, Denver. Good morning, Barney. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Morning.
Hey, so Billy said don't talk about any of your callers. Remind me to say something about Condi Rice's dad, because I kind of go on a rant. If I were a brother and I was listening to this show and I heard that guy, I would think that white people don't like blacks very much. That whole attitude. First off, Martin Luther King, that guy deserves a week holiday. He'd get up in the morning, he'd get the crap kicked out of him, and did it again and again and again. And I don't think people realize, and this might sound stereotypical, whatever, but if the black people of the 40s, 30s, whatever, 20s, if they were like Irish people, they'd still be fighting. The people listened, they did it right. You know, Condi Rice's dad talked about marching with Martin Luther King. He says, well, you know, Martin Luther King could have all this peace and love stuff, but I got my stick here, and I'm going to bash somebody's brains in if they lay a hand on me. The people were very calm and peaceful, and it worked. But I don't even think the groundhogs talked to that guy today. You know, listen. Oh, by the way, I checked my portfolio. I didn't lose $1 billion today. I promise you that. I don't know. You know what the only thing I'd say about gay pride? Why can't we have 30 days off, Billy? Come on.
Oh, why not? Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, Barney. What I love the example. I love the example there that you talked about. That I kind of want to bring something. We'll get to Condi's dad in a second, but the idea of the nonviolent protests, and I think that the current brand of protests need to go back and look at that as far as a functionality, is because at that time in history, those protesters were getting beaten up. We're having dogs sicked on them. We're having fire hoses turned on them, and they didn't fight back. And that's why, and especially, I am going to aim this criticism. I think it's a critique for all protests right now, but I'm going to specifically aim this at more of the liberals, is say that when you go down there and you wrap yourself in this idea that you are the modern incarnation of the civil rights protesters, and you're marching for the civil rights or the rights of whatever chosen group you're marching for, and you start breaking things, you start pushing cops, you don't understand who you claim to be representing. You can't say that this is the modern civil rights movement and be violent. You can't do it.
Not even close, Billy. These people, they didn't know whether they were going to live or die.
Yep.
They really didn't. It was brutal in the South, and I don't know. We've come a long ways in this country, but just so that caller knows, I know enough of the brothers. I know enough brown people. They know when you walk in the room, what they feel it. It's like a radar they've got. They know what you think about them. So just so you know, you're not tricking anybody or hiding.
And guys, a reminder too, in the complexity of all of this, right? America was one of the first. It wasn't the first, but it was one of the first countries, because of its foundational ideals, to want to confront the issue of slavery. Slavery was everywhere around the world. and the work of William Wilberforce and the work in London to bring about the abolition of the slave trade, and then eventually it made its way over here. And if it hadn't been for the cotton gin, slavery wouldn't have picked back up as quickly as it did in the late 1700s, early 1800s. But this, in my mind, reminding the American people of what we went through as a country to remove slavery, to remove this sin, and the 500,000 people that died in that battle, of what Abraham Lincoln went through, and then to be able to celebrate that our country threw off those shackles, and then to take the day off to celebrate black culture and jazz music and barbecues and all that like they do down at Juneteenth festivals. I don't see any problem with it. I'm sorry, I just don't see any problem with it.
Remember, North Carolina said, you guys make another state, you bring another state in the union that's not a slave state, and we're basically, it kind of triggered everything, I guess, but we've got such a, you know what, I don't know what that guy's problem is, but buddy, he needs to take a chill pill. That's all I can say. I don't know, man. Hey, you know what? You got to admit, man, when these African Americans dress up, they got some cool ass colors on, buddy. They look cool. Yes,
oh, dude, yeah, do they ever? That is amazing. Now, you want to say something about Condi's dad or something before we want to remind you?
Well,
yeah, like that. Yes, go ahead.
Because he wasn't. When I read, I really liked Condi. I think that's why my daughter ended up going to DU, but she came out of liberal, thanks to Jeff and his Mitt Romney deal. But Condi Rice's dad was one of these guys that's like, I'll beat your brains and you're not laying a hand on me. And I remember the exact words were, I don't care what Martin Luther wants to do. One of these guys lay out, and just thank God that the blacks were very reserved. You know, Grandma was involved in their race, and they were just good people. And thank God they were, because that could have lasted forever. And they weren't drunk Irish like my ancestors, so God only knows how long that would have lasted. But
yes. Hey, Barney, I love it. And as you're going, Barney, I got one for you. You know why the Irish always get in fights with each other?
Oh, no, this will be good. Go ahead.
It's the only way you are assured of a worthy opponent.
Oh, good one, buddy.
Barney, you're the best, man.
Barney,
Have a great day.
great call. Always love you. Thanks so much. His line will be open 303-696-1971. Stephen, we'll get to you next. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. We are talking Juneteenth. Today's Juneteenth. Is it a holiday worth celebrating? Bill, a good reminder here that when it comes to the abolition of the slave trade, which is essentially what Juneteenth's about, it's about the kind of announcement that reached Galveston, Texas, with regards to the idea that slaves were now free. Britain was the first real country to abolish slavery in the 18th century. But it wasn't until 1962 that Saudi Arabia got rid of it. And while it's internationally prohibited, it still kind of exists with forced labor, human trafficking, debt bondage, child labor in India, China, North Korea, and Pakistan to this day.
Oh, wow.
So
that's a longer list than I thought it was going to be.
Right. I mean, that's why I'm kind of like, I don't mind celebrating. I think it's a great thing to celebrate because I think it was part of Western civilization coming to terms with the fact that this was an injustice, and to celebrate the 500,000 or so people that lost their lives in the Civil War and what it achieved to bring about the end of the slave trade in America. I think it's worth celebrating. Absolutely. Let's go to Steven in Denver. Good morning, Steve. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Yeah, morning.
Hey, thanks, guys. I'll go quick. So I've been involved in the civil rights movement for at least 30 years. I prosecuted race cases in Birmingham, Mississippi, Northern Florida. I lived in Alabama. I practice here in Denver. Here's a big distinction between the two then and now. Back then, the movement had a solid Christian foundation. The leaders of the civil rights movement, Martin Luther King, Reverend Andy Young, John Lewis, they all had, either theology degrees or grew up in the church. They were able to attract support from white Catholics in the North, white ministers, not in the South at that time. The Jewish, many leaders of the Jewish community joined them. And you also had at that time, not necessarily Martin Luther King, but right before him, you had a lot of folks who had served in World War II. And now you look at any of these movements today, what are they based on? Just madness. I'm kind of sad calling in because you had such noble, I know Martin Luther King had problems, but you had noble leaders based in sound philosophy, came out of the churches in the South and in the North, and now we've got this, you look at what's going to happen on the parades coming up in June. It's just madness, and it was so wonderful at one time.
And Stephen, to that point, what I've seen, especially in the modern movement, is when you put people into the framework of oppressor versus oppressed, the modern Marxist movement, it greenlights anybody to react in violence against the oppressor. So if you're oppressed, whether you're Palestinian or an immigrant or whatever it might be, now in modern understanding, that gives you the right to inflict a violence upon the quote-unquote oppressor that you didn't have when it was a Christian basis for nonviolence.
Not only that, violence, extermination. If you disagree with somebody, we need to wipe them off the planet. And, I agree that it's...
Now, Stephen, are you still... Go ahead.
Modern Democratic Party has thrown faith out the window, all faith about, and any sort of patriotism, they mock. The traditional Democratic leaders, JFK, Roosevelt, they all served in the war. Nixon. People had a sense of what the country was about, what the country had gone through. On a lighter note, I've attended countless black services in the South. And if you want to, they don't, first of all, pack your lunch, you're going to be there. They got a senior choir, junior boys choir, on and on. It is quite an experience. So
the black church is a gift to
Stephen.
America.
Yeah,
absolutely. Stephen, thank you so much for the call. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.